All right, are we live?
I believe so.
All right. Greg, it's great to meet you. Thanks for joining today. My name is Chris Sinke. I run business development and a whole lot of other things at Bittrex Global. I've been with the Bittrex ecosystem for over 4 years now, and I joined back in 2017 as the markets were really ramping up to that first spike to when the BTC went to 17K. And I've gotten a chance to see a lot of projects come through and a lot of exciting changes in the space over that period of time, and a lot of really exciting things are finally delivering on the promises that they set out to, and I really feel like your project is one of those. So with that said, I'd love to hand it over to you, and I'd love to get a little bit of information on your background and what you guys are working on, and then after that, let's get into some questions.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, it's been quite the ride. It's been a crazy introduction of the white paper in 2016, 2017 timeframe, and I'm really glad that at this round we were able to actually ship the product and have adoption. So thank you. My background, my name is Greg Osuri. I'm the CEO founder of Akash Network. I'm a product economist, computer scientist. The past 25 years of me being a programmer, my last 10 years or so have been spent primarily on developer tooling. Founded a company called AngelHack to take hackathons to the masses. That's where I had an amazing opportunity to work with developers across the globe. By the time I left the company, we were about 150,000 developers in about 50 cities. And I helped launch several notable companies at AngelHack, the biggest one being Firebase. Firebase went on to get acquired by Google, became Google Cloud's largest, most popular database, really. And then, during my time at AngelHack, it's when I really got the conviction around this problem that was most prominent amongst developers, which is essentially taking your workloads from what you develop, where you developed, and making it available to your users, right? 2013, there was this new technology that was sort of like taking shape called Linux containers, and we formed the company Overclock Labs to take Linux containers to market. I got really early involved in this container native framework called Kubernetes. For those of you that don't know what Kubernetes is, it's the orchestration framework used today by 80% of the cloud. When I got involved, it was a small little project, and they created a company to take Kubernetes to market, and that's the genesis of Akash Network. As you can make out from my background, being extremely technical, our team is number one, world-class developers, entrepreneurs, leaders, and right now we have about 20 people on the team, and that's growing. We're adding about 4 people a month.
Wow, that is impressive, and it's not often you come across someone like yourself who seems to have the background needed to actually take something transformative like AKT into the future and make it a reality. So it's relatively rare. You get a lot of these projects today that make grandiose claims and seem to be solving a huge problem, but can't execute. So it's refreshing to see that. And congrats on all the success and what you guys have built and bringing it alive. So when we put out this AMA, I think we collected a lot of feedback from our community, from the Bittrex Global community. And I've got some questions that came in from our community I'd like to run you through so that we can hopefully get a bit more awareness of what you guys are doing and answer some of our community's questions.
Sounds great.
Yeah, the first one I've got is so some of our community members would like to know how Akash links to the cloud. How Akash links the cloud to the blockchain and how it fits into today's old world cloud ecosystem. So I think this is a good question in terms of what you guys are doing, bridging old and new, and how that compares to your current competitors.
Great. So blockchain is a very interesting place in Akash. And before I get into answering the question, so broadly speaking, blockchain helps Akash in three categories, right? Number one, from a political standpoint, how we're structured. Number two, from a technical standpoint, how the technology actually enables Akash to even exist. And third is economic. How do we really price these things out? How do we look at subsidies? How do we look at growth, right? So before we get into the nitty gritty, just a little background, how we got into blockchain, right? So we were primarily cloud native, infrastructure native engineers. And I stumbled upon Bitcoin like everyone else, I suppose, in 2009 or whatnot. But we got serious into developing on the blockchain about 2016 timeframe, when we began Overclock Labs, which is the company behind Akash Network, to take Kubernetes to market. One of the things that we designed was an edge-optimized cloud, in the sense that you can pretty much turn any data center into a cloud using our tech, right? And as you have an edge-optimized cloud, one of the key things is to make sure that your state or your data is consistent across all the edge nodes, all the data centers. And in order to achieve that, the kind of data structures that we have to build ended up looking something close to a Merkle tree, and using BitTorrent style synchronization, state synchronization to achieve finality, right? So we ended up kind of creating a quasi blockchain. You know, if you put trustability on top of BitTorrent, I suppose you end up with a blockchain. So we didn't really start off as a blockchain company, but we kind of stumbled upon this technology as we were solving our problems, right? And then we were like, well, if we are kind of recreating a blockchain, we might as well use a blockchain. And we needed that for our tech to even function. And then, and second big realization for us was like, well, the premise of Akash Network is to tap into 8.2 million data centers that remain underutilized. 85% or so capacity in those data centers remain underutilized, right? So we wanted to create a marketplace. And when we went about designing this marketplace, we looked at what values we hold close as developers, right? Number one happened to be open source. I'm an open source developer, or most of our team makeup is open source developers. And number one thing we value open source because it allows us to really collaborate with people across the globe in a transparent and open way, and gives us the trust that, yes, this software is going to exist tomorrow, even if the code creator leaves, right? So we want that comfort, and we've seen so many pieces, for so long that to realize that that's not always the case. So being open and being transparent is very, very important. And the marketplace has to be permissionless, right? Because we believe permissionless structures have massive scalability opportunities compared to permission structures, internet being a close example. And number three, we wanted to make sure that if you're a developer working on Akash and you see a problem, you should be able to go fix it yourself. As open source developers, it's core to us. So our challenge really was, okay, how do you create an open source marketplace that is self-sustainable? And we looked at every possible solution, and blockchain happened to be the answer. So from a political standpoint, yes, a blockchain really gives you the framework to create open, permissionless, and self-sovereign systems like Akash's marketplace, right? Second, technical. I discussed that before. Akash gives us this amazing instant, consistency, immediate consistency compared to any other data structures we can think of, right? And third thing is like, well, what happens when you actually create an open system where the price is set by the user instead of what people are used to today, where the cloud provider sets the price, right? And can we actually use some of these beautiful economic primitives that the crypto provides to further create and accelerate growth? And if you look at the inflation model, how we bootstrap Akash's security and how we plan to bootstrap further growth can clearly tell you that you can actually use inflation to borrow from the future to fund the present, right? So blockchain gives us amazing tools that are impossible in the old world, especially if you're considering creating a self-sustaining open source ecosystem. And that's how we bring in blockchain into Akash. Hopefully that answers the question.
Oh, it's a fantastic answer. It was a lot more in depth than I was actually expecting. And I think that pairs nicely into the next question, which dives a little bit more specific into something that you guys have branded as DCloud. And I'm actually not even sure if that's something that you guys branded or if that's now just nomenclature that's accepted and is widely used. But can you talk a little bit more about the specifics around decentralized cloud computing? And I'll have another question after that related to competition. So if you or other solutions and how you guys compare. So as you're getting into that, the answer for that question, if you feel like going into the next one, by all means. Otherwise, we'll cover that in the fourth question.
I guess the origins of the term DCloud really came from decentralized cloud. So we created the term, and there's another term called DWeb that also kind of like contributes to this notion that cloud needs to be decentralized. In our viewpoint, if you look at the cloud today, cloud is essentially two things, right? So, well, before we get there, cloud is someone else's computer, essentially. That's the fundamental concept of a cloud. It's just that someone else's computer is sitting in this large machine called data center, right? So there are two core offerings cloud offers. One is this compute alone, and another set of services is essentially backend services at a premium, right? So when it comes to storage, when it comes to key management, when it comes to DNS, when it comes to several other key components that one would require in order to have a comprehensive solution on the cloud. So when we say DCloud, we mean like each one of these components are getting decentralized. Storage, for example, long-term storage, we have Saya, who we work with very closely, or Skynet, they're rebranded, that provides long-term storage, which is decentralized. Akash provides compute, which is decentralized. If you look at Handshake provides DNS, which is decentralized. If you look at NewCipher, NewCipher provides like proxy re-encryption or key management services that's decentralized. Like every part of the cloud stack is getting decentralized, and we put all of them together into one umbrella called DCloud. And Akash, we're positioning as the gateway for the DCloud, where we want developers to experience the entire breadth of DCloud when you come to Akash and just not compute. So that's the origin of the term.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that background. Yeah. The next question I was going to ask is like, how does Akash compare to some of the other competitors specifically in the space, like Sun Golem, Filecoin? I know Filecoin. There's storage, there's compute, and that sort of thing. But can you go a little bit deeper on what sets you guys apart?
Right. So broadly speaking, before we even get into specifics of like how do we differentiate ourselves, broadly speaking, remove the decentralization part, right? So what is Akash? Akash is a developer-first cloud, right? What that means is, like I mentioned before, like when we're putting the design for what Akash would look like, we sat down, we really thought through what's important to developers, right? Being open source, being able to set the price and the terms on your footing, right? Being able to extend and fix things when we need to, right? So we took all these things and we really built a cloud that is meant for developers and built by developers, right? Puts developers at first. So the manifest languages that you use to develop on the cloud feels very similar if you use Docker Compose. So we kept that intact because we don't want your learning curve to be like humongous, right? So it's a very user-friendly cloud, right? So if you take something like 2 hours on Amazon, it should take 10 minutes on Akash. So it's just a better and easier cloud, right? So now, it's open source, and there are other open source cloud solutions, and there are other decentralized cloud solutions, and there are a broad category of things, right? So if you look at the entire umbrella of decentralized cloud, you have broad categories in terms of what function they provide And then if you draw another horizontal line, there are it comes down to how they provide this function, right? So from a vertical standpoint, you have storage, you have compute, you have encryption, you have routing or DNS, right? So Akash falls, and if you there are multiple categories, but Akash falls under this decentralized compute arena, whereas Filecoin, Saya, Arweave, all they come under storage arena, right? So you need these complementary services in order to have a fully functioning cloud. Like you see lots of examples where people use Saya to store backups for your databases and Akash to do your hot storage, right? So Akash provides hot storage, it doesn't provide long-term storage. For that, you need to use a Filecoin or Saya, right? Okay, all right. So when it comes to compute, what other players are there? So we have essentially the Golem, and we have Sonam, I believe we have iExec, and we have several other players, but these are the prominent ones, right? So in these decentralized compute providers, you have two categories you can branch off. You have verifiable compute and you have reputation-based compute. Sonam, iExec, Golem comes under verifiable compute, and that is that has its own use cases, and normally requires you to design a program in a language that they specify. Unverifiable compute or reputation-based compute is where Akash comes into play. And Akash is the only reputation-based compute that I know is live. And there are other players probably writing white papers and showing visions, but actual product that's functioning. Akash is the only one in non-verifiable reputation-based compute. What that means is Akash you can essentially run anything that you run on Amazon on Akash. And Akash is the only decentralized cloud that allows you to do that, right? Other verifiable compute platforms require you to change your application to fit their programming language. So that limits the number of applications that you can do. So right now on Akash, you can host a website, or you can host a background job, or you can run a machine learning application or an API server. Amazing applications are being built and deployed right now. So Akash is the only platform that allows you to do that. So to summarize, Akash is a purpose-built, developer-first cloud that can run full-stack applications, and no one else in blockchain can do that.
No, it's incredible. And that pairs nicely.
This is a very complex topic to really understand the lay of the land. So that's why the long-winded answer.
No, it's great. I think that's what everybody wants to understand is how you fit into the ecosystem, what your core differentiators are, why did you build it, and why is it going to be successful given that landscape. And that overview really helps me really tease through it as someone who's a layman in this space. I think that was really well said. So thank you for that. And it dovetails nicely into my next question, which is around DeFi applications. So you mentioned this, but going deeper into how Akash can support dCloud and I think the development and probably the operation and the continued build out of DeFi applications. How does that work as opposed to, why would I use Akash to support DeFi applications that I'm building? Maybe apart from just the compute side of it.
So there are two main problems we see with DeFi, right? As it is currently. Number one problem we see is DeFi, if you really look at a DeFi application, break it down, there are what I would broadly categorize as three main areas in DeFi, right? The first is the backend, which is a smart contract-based dApp. So that is decentralized, right? That runs on a smart contract, runs on a network, be it Ethereum, be it Solana, be it whatever, right? So that part is decentralized. And then you have the middleware, which is the indexing layer. And then you have a front end, which is the user interfacing web application, right? So the middleware could be decentralized, may not be decentralized, but if you use Graph, it's probably decentralized to a degree. Or if you use something like Zapier, Zapper that has their own custom middleware, right? Or something like Saya, where you have a standard set of APIs that act as a middleware that really helps you provide a good experience, right? So there's that one element. and the front end, which is made up of a JavaScript application, usually running on a web server. So a lot of the front ends today are running on the cloud, Amazon's or Microsoft's or any of these. And that poses a few risks. Number one, it's not really decentralized. Number two, you have regulatory risk, right? Like you can get shut down, right? So Akash comes amazingly well here. You have several players like Serum, like some of the Thorchain UIs running currently on Akash. So that is to really decentralize the front end stack, because someone like Serum really knows that, well, if you just host one endpoint and that endpoint could go down, and the best way really to run this web endpoint is to have the user run a mirror instead of you hosting it, right? So that's one area we can really help. And second area is the middleware I was talking about. Your current choices today is to go to a centralized cloud to host a middleware, and that's not something that we consider decentralized. So you want to have a decentralized cloud for this middleware, right? And third, and overall, from a cost perspective, right? Today it costs about what, $15,000. So if you're developing on DeFi, you probably have to run a good full node for Ethereum. It costs about $25,000 to run a full node on Ethereum. On Infura or whatever, right? So Akash costs like 1/3. So why wouldn't you? So there's like a decentralization factor, and there's this cost factor. I think Akash provides incredible value for DeFi applications, and I think that's really what that should be taken into consideration.
That was an incredible answer, and I'm convinced if I go out and work on a project after my time here at Bittrex, based on your explanation, I don't know why anyone wouldn't do that. And it's really interesting to learn that Serum, the Serum Dex is using you guys for some of their back end. So
yeah, in some of the documentation, we'll probably have a more formal, like, well, hey, Serum is using this. But if you look at lots of different places, you'll see Akash links, everywhere in the documentation. Serum documentation has an Akash link. I don't know how far that's working, but yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so let's switch gears and get into some more direct questions from our community that kind of change the direction of the conversation. The first question off the board is specifically word for word. What plans do you have in place to attract investors to onboard with AKT?
And ship good product.
Yeah.
Sorry, a generic question like that deserves a generic answer. Ship kick-ass product.
This is from our community, and so I would guess that this is also from the perspective of a trader looking to invest in AKT.
Got it.
And not necessarily someone really using it for a utility purpose, but I think that those two things go hand in hand.
Right. So I cannot speak to what to speculate on, unfortunately. So how are we going to really attract traders is to, focus on the fundamentals, right? So focus on the fundamentals, which is adoption. So for us, the number one priority is people using the cloud, because whatever speculation that traders feed off of, it really comes down to like what it's being used for, right? If you look at Ethereum, the value of Ethereum doesn't come because it's traded really well. The value of Ethereum comes because people are using Ethereum for DeFi and has product market fit, and people are paying using gas, right? So it really comes down to like the fundamental value Akash is providing, and those fundamentals are strong and growing stronger. Today we have 55 unique applications deployed. We grew by 17x in usage in the last 2 months. We're the fastest growing decentralized cloud in the world, and that train is not stopping. The adoption is happening, right? So when it comes to like providing attracting investors, like we have this adoption, now we will help with promoting to get more liquidity, right? So partnering with someone like Bittrex Global and partnering with other amazing liquidity providers, opening up these channels to a lot of these trader networks really helps us achieve some of the liquidity goals. And of course, we're going to do several other things to attract traders. when it comes to running competitions or other creative venues, right? But fundamentally, I think it comes down to like providing the fundamental value and making sure that we have a solid growth there, and the rest is one of those things that will align well as long as our fundamentals are strong.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I was thinking about jumping in and saying yes, I love your answer as you were giving it, because I get that question all the time. Everybody I know, everybody that I meet says, "Hey, what's the price of Bitcoin going to be in 3 months?" And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm not even really allowed to trade. So what I can tell you is that ultimately over time, if there's real utility, the underlying price will increase as that utility accretes to the token value. And so my next question on that point is, can you talk a little bit about the actual token itself and how it's utilized in the platform? More specifics around that, I think that'd be really helpful.
Absolutely. So utility combined with scarcity, right? So that's what gives the value of the token, right? So Akash, like I talked before, Akash is a proof of stake network. What that means is the network is secure with a token where each token has one vote, right? So the more the chain that has the most number of votes is considered the honest chain. At a fundamental level, the token provides security to the blockchain. So what that means is the higher the value of the token, more secure the blockchain is, right? Because in order for you to attack, you need to purchase at least 51% of the tokens on the market. So the higher the value there is, the more security there is, right? So security is paramount for Akash, because Akash being a number one blockchain, a layer one blockchain, right? So the token's primary utility is to secure and provide a means of exchange of value, right? Because, well, if you don't have a token to exchange value, you have to use credit cards, which we all know how that works out. So, well, why can't we use a different token in the Akash ecosystem? Because we didn't want to inherit the economic properties and the economic burden that other chains share. Like someone like Ethereum was impractical because Ethereum has a homogeneous security model and security budget that may not align with a blockchain like Akash, right? So we needed a self and a sovereign token as a medium of exchange on top of the additional properties like stream payments to escrow payments and all that, right? So the token is the primary base of exchange value and secure the network. And third, token gives us amazing bootstrapping properties, right? So token has an inflation model that's designed to attract early stakers and provides incentives for you to actually secure the blockchain. In the early days, when you have security that is not prime yet, we use an inflationary mechanism to bootstrap. And as the chain reaches to maturity, we'll shift from inflationary-based incentives to a fee-sharing-based incentive, which is essentially we are proposing up to 20% of the network revenue go to the stakers, right? So the inflation right now is on a decay curve, meaning it actually reduces every block period, very small amount, but it reduces and goes to near zero in about 20 years time. I think we'll go to zero in about 80 years time, right? So it's an inflationary decay. The inflation is on a decay curve with a maximum supply of 389 million tokens that will ever be created. We began with 100 million Genesis tokens, and the 289 million will be, minted over time, right? So it's a deflationary token that's inflationary at first, very similar to how Bitcoin does it, and it will switch to a fee-based incentive structure from inflationary-based incentive structure upon maturity. And the token is used to secure and means of exchange of value in the ecosystem.
Great. That was actually going to be one of my next questions, was to talk a little bit more about the token economics of the token itself, the distribution and the inflation of which you got there, which is good. And I thought you might have mentioned it, but my feed cut out a little bit. Did you talk about your Supermini?
Are we doing Supermini questions? I did talk about it yesterday. Just to remind people what Supermini is. So a lot of excitement for Supermini. There's more excitement than we hoped for. we really want to change that. We really want to focus on what's important. Supermini is an experimental tool. It's not what people think of as a miner, and it doesn't have riches hidden away. Anybody can go build a Supermini. It's not a special tool. It's just a GPU cluster. That if you have a GPU cluster, when we have GPUs enabled on Akash, you can plug in and earn money. Right now, you can actually plug in any box, ideally sitting in a data center to earn Akash tokens. But there's a lot more excitement than we intended to, and we're, like you said before, it's a very, very experimental setting. We don't even know what the end result is going to look like yet, for Supermini. So so that's really what I wanted to get out.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Well, let's move away from token economics and the token itself, and let's talk more about what you're probably more excited to talk about, which is the roadmap. So, what are Akash's biggest upcoming priorities, milestones, and what are you guys doing to achieve those milestones?
So for us, we have a product that's live, right? We have a product that's growing. So once you launch a product that's live and growing, our number one priority will be to increase the growth, right? Accelerate the growth. So we look at two main key performance indicators, KPIs. The number one KPI we look at is the amount of applications deployed, currently running, active applications on Akash, or active leases, we call it, on Akash. And the time it takes to deploy on Akash, right? Because if the number of applications keep going up on a nice curve, and the time to deploy keeps coming down, that's when we achieve product market fit, or that's what success looks like, right? So in that vein, whatever we do, right, from a roadmap standpoint, usually falls under these two categories. So the first category, what are we doing to improve number of applications being deployed, improve use cases, right? Enable a lot more applications to be deployed. So we have certain soft limits that we imposed because we didn't want the chain to blow up, like in terms of storage, in terms of bandwidth, in terms of several limitations that are theoretically in place until we achieve stability will be removed first, right? So our first and main item on the thing is we're going to improve storage and scalability on storage. And then as we evolve, we're going to get into GPU marketplaces, multi-tenancy, and it's very, very exciting for us because, as you know, today on the cloud, if you are a machine learning company using Amazon, 20% of your margins go to Amazon. And you and I, even though we don't run machine learning workloads, are actually paying an invisible Amazon tax, right? So machine learning and we have several customers with millions of dollars of annual spend that want to use lower cost GPU cloud. So GPU market is humongous for us. And also, if you think about Ethereum network moving off proof of work and moving on to proof of stake, implies that this entire GPU infrastructure Ethereum miners have built is going to become obsolete. And we want to tap into that. We really want to jump on that and enable a multi-tenancy GPU marketplace that our customers have been asking for. I think it's going to be huge for us, right? So that's like what's coming up for us in the increase the amount of applications being deployed. And the second category is the time to deploy. How can we make Akash much simpler? In all honesty, today it takes about 90 minutes for someone that has no idea what Akash coming to the website and actually deploying an application. And we care about that a lot. I want to bring that to 1 minute, right? 1 minute, click, click, click. And I think 1 minute, if you want to deploy an unstoppable WordPress cluster talking to a MySQL, or if you want to deploy a high availability Postgres cluster with hot failover, with backups and snapshots stored on Saya, we want to automate this entire like bootstrapping or booting process from 90 minutes to 1 minute, right? So if you achieve that, I think we'll achieve an incredible product market fit, right? So our overall, and I think this is not just with us, right? And overall, if you look at the space, we have product market fit when it comes to decentralized finance, and we have some, I think, quite a bit of progress when it comes to PMF, when it comes to with NFTs, right? DWeb or DCloud is not there yet. We are seeing a lot of amazing signals, but I can't really tell you that we have achieved product market fit. And if anybody says that in DWeb, they're lying, right? Or they don't know what product market fit looks like, right? People using your product doesn't mean you have product market fit. So our number one, and that's really our priorities in terms of how we look at work and how we think about adoption, right? So right now, I'm glad that we have close to 5,000 applications that are being run on Akash, and I think I'd like to see that number go up exponentially. Right? So hope that answers your roadmap question. And so to make things easier, we're going to work on guides. We're going to work on web UIs. We're making significant improvements to the command line interfaces. We have not only us, we have other community members developing amazing stuff that'll make it much simpler to use Akash. And we're also investing heavily with interoperability. I keep telling about Skynet a lot, and I love the Skynet and Akash sort of like use cases because it's an organic set of use cases people came up with. So we're going to invest heavily in interoperability. As you may know, Akash is the leading one of the leading chains that enable IBC or inter-blockchain communication with Cosmos, and the second chain to connect to the Cosmos hub. There is a lot of work on the interoperability side that's happening, especially with DeFi especially DeFi being enabled in Cosmos ecosystem. There are two amazing projects: Osmosis, which is doing liquidity mining for AKT. They'll be launching very soon. There is a Gravity DEX, which is the first DEX in the Cosmos ecosystem, and Akash and Atom will be the first pair. We also have a Ethereum bridge that's pretty decentralized that's coming up in the next month or so. So there's a lot of work on the interoperability side. That'll also open up quite a bit of liquidity. I think we're really excited about. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That was actually going to be my next question, a little bit off script. Is like when you actually take a look at your page on CoinMarketCap, you see the Cosmos ecosystem and Solana ecosystem tags, and so I wanted to know more information about interoperability and how you guys are pushing that forward, and you just answered it. So thank you.
Yeah, to add more to the interoperability, right? Like we look at the space as so early that we have to figure out how to work with each other and put user first before putting our maximalism attitudes first, right? Like today, a user that want to use DWeb has no way to demystify what's happening, right? There's a traditional non-crypto user that wants to deploy in a decentralized world doesn't know that they have the storage in Saya. May or may not know about Akash, may or may not know about Filecoin, NewsCypher, all these amazing tools that they have at their disposal, right? So our vision is to position Akash as a gateway for decentralized cloud, right? And it's very, very important for us. And in that vein, it's very important that we focus on frictionless value transfer between different networks, where the amount of work a developer needs to do is super minimal, right? So Akash we're positioning Akash as a gateway to the decentralized web, and in order for us to achieve that status, we have to solve interoperability. That's why we're making headways, lots of investments in interoperability around, especially with Cosmos.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about how our community can get involved. And a number of them have asked how they can collaborate or help develop the project. So how would you answer that question?
Yes, well, the best way to get involved with Akash is to start using Akash, right? So number one priority for us is to increase the number of apps deployed on Akash. So if you have a personal website or if you have a company website, if you're someone that cares about decentralization and open source, please deploy on Akash, right? And reach out to me if you need some tokens to get started, or go to Bittrex Global. Sorry, don't reach out. Go to Bittrex Global, purchase some AKT, use that AKT to deploy on Akash. And what we really want is feedback. We want to understand your pain points on deploying on Akash. We want to understand how we can do better. So we want feedback, and that's the best way to get involved. So to go to discord.akash network, if you're a developer, that is, please don't ask anything about Supermini or ruin the chat. We really want developers focusing and building on our platform, right? And second best way would be to go to if you're not a developer, but if you're someone that can add value to our community, go to our Telegram. Akash NW is our handle, or go to our Twitter, which we are super active. Akash Net _ is the Twitter handle, and get involved with the community. Start answering questions or just getting to know much more. We have lots of cadence. If you look at our Telegram, that we can use a lot of help with. Yeah, if you're a developer, build on Akash, deploy on Akash. If you're a community member, come to our Telegram, check out our Twitter, AkashNet, and my personal Twitter, gregosuri.com. Reach out to me if you feel like you can add any value, either in community or technical. We're also hiring quite a bit. Like I said, we're hiring a product designer. We're hiring developer relation leads. We're hiring senior engineers. We're hiring quite a bit from a product team. So if you want to get involved there, that'd be great. And also, if you're a developer, one more thing is you can start fixing issues on our GitHub. Akash is an open source project. It is built by the community for the community. So it's not like a company providing service. It is built by us. It's people's cloud. So if you find an issue, they're really good first issues. If you're a Golang developer, if you find an issue that you think you can fix, go for it. And send me send a pull request, right? And I see every pull request. So there's so many ways to get involved with Akash, and I want you to get in there.
Well, fantastic. I think that basically concludes the list of questions that our community and myself had in terms of the burning ones that we wanted to have answered. And I think at this point, you've done an amazing job of walking through Akash. We covered a lot of ground, and we even got to how our community members can get involved. And I completely agree with that. Just from a philosophical standpoint, go use it. Start as an adopter, and that's the best way to get involved in any project. So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so Akash product speaks volumes for us. Now, we're very proud of our product, and that's where we spend 80% of our time. So yes, if you use Akash, there's no better way for me. Really, there's no better way to support Akash, except by using it. And it'll tell you what you need to know about the product. All your questions will be answered. So it's just, and you will see things that we don't see, right? So please go use Akash.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we sign off?
No, this has been wonderful. And reach out to me on Twitter. Greg Osuri is my handle. I'm very active. I respond to most questions, except for I want Supermini question. I'm not going to answer that. But anything other than Supermini, I'm all ears.
All right. Sounds great. Well, thanks a lot, Greg. Really appreciate your time. Really excited about Akash and excited that it's available on Bittrex Global. So go sign up for Bittrex Global and get some. Get involved, use Akash, and provide feedback.
Thank you so much, Chris. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks a lot, Greg. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.